Good morning, world changers. So it is day 14 of the 100 Days of Self-Discovery Challenge. As you know, every day I pose a thought-provoking question. I share my own reflections and I invite you to do the same. And you can share them here in the comments below, or you can post in our Change Your World private personal development group. It's free to join. Just send us a request and you'll be added to that. Or you can pose a video like this or take a photograph of your journal entry. The idea is that we take 10-15 minutes each day to reflect on this question and just to get to know ourselves a little bit better, so we can work out what our dreams, desires, goals, what we're all about, and essentially what might be holding us back, and we can start making steps to creating the life that we want to really want to live, rather than opposed to just reacting to it. So that's the challenge, that's what it's all about. And today's question, I have a confession to make. This was actually a question from a few days ago and I totally bailed on it. I skipped it because I thought I cannot publicly talk about that on this video and share this. But I was inspired by Joan Gallagher, so she's one of the very active members that have been sharing daily, and she confessed that she didn't want to share something the other day and she really pushed her comfort zone to do it. And do you know, I'm so proud of her because I know what that's like. I know how uncomfortable and vulnerable it can make you. But when we do share these things, one, it takes the power out of the anxiety that's attached to it. It also gives permission to others because they think, wow, she did it or he did it, and God, they have the same feelings as me, the same thoughts. Because essentially what I've learned about personal development is that we all pretty much have different experiences, but we all tend to have the same hang-ups and anxieties. And you know, you might think you're the only person feeling a certain way, but probably the reality is probably not. We're all dealing with our own challenges and our own demons and what have you. So today's question is, what is a negative memory that stands out from your childhood and what did you learn from it? So again, what is a negative memory that stands out from your childhood and what did you learn from it? So there was a number. That sounds terrible. I had a good childhood, but yeah, there were a number of things that did happen in my childhood. I'm not going to share them all, but there was one particular one that was quite a game changer for me. And it was when I moved up to Scotland when I was 14 years old. Now, it's nothing to do with moving to Scotland. Scotland is a wonderful, beautiful place, and I love Scotland now, and I love where I live, and I'm so grateful that I've moved here now. However, at 14 years old, you can imagine it was quite a time when, you know, I had great friends in Yorkshire. I loved my life down there. I had a great network of friends, and I did not want to leave them. And my parents decided that they were moving to Scotland. We were actually going to move to Wales, Canada, France, and then they finally settled on Scotland. And it's funny because life could have been so different if I'd moved to France or Canada, or, you know, who knows what my life could have been or would have been if we had followed through on those options. However, or Wales for that matter. No offence, I'm teasing. But yeah, so at 14, my dad very much made the decision that he wanted to move to Scotland, and the family were moving, you know, just following suit. And I really rebelled, I really resisted, I didn't want to go, and that started a downward spiral of me believing I was insignificant because my feelings were ignored, they were dismissed, they were just, it's just Susie acting up, and that just made me feel pretty worthless, to be honest. It just felt that my feelings didn't matter. So when we eventually moved to Scotland, that, like I say, it began this whole kind of thought process in me that I was insignificant, so I started acting out, really bad behaviour. Well, it's bad behaviour. I was just doing all sorts, smoking, drinking, getting into all kinds of trouble. I was a teenager, massively rebelling. My schooling just went downhill, all kinds of things, and it's interesting because one of the speakers at my conference in April is going to be Tina Hendry from Reattached Parenting, and she is going to be talking about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And an adverse childhood experience can be anything from a flippant comment from a well-meaning significant role model parent teacher to severe traumatic abuse, and depending on how many markers that you have of adverse childhood experiences will, has a detrimental effect on later life in adulthood. And she'll be explaining about this, but one thing that fascinates me about Tina, she talks about how behaviour is communication, and she always talks about seeing the child, not the behaviour, i.e. work out what's going on because this child is trying to communicate. And because I was acting out, I was seeking attention because my belief system was I'm insignificant, so I'm going to do something to get your attention. And as a result, because I was doing all these really negative things, I was getting punished more, and, it wasn't the attention I wanted. I was craving love and significance, and, just wanted my parents to tell me I mattered. And, I had it sounds bizarre to say I had a great relationship with my parents. I loved my parents. But that's the thing, when these things happen in our lives, we don't stop loving our parents, we stop loving ourselves. And that's what happened to me, which is why I then led on to toxic relationships. I got into relationships that just kept reconfirming that I wasn't worthy, I wasn't significant, all this kind of stuff. And the spiral continued into my adulthood until I realised this pattern. And this was through the life coaching that I did with Alistair and the personal development that I've done. I started to realise this pattern and honestly see the light bulb moment when I realised that. So what did I learn from that experience? Well, I've learned forgiveness of myself and my parents, because my parents were doing the absolute best that they could. They had positive intentions, they thought that moving to Scotland was a brand new life, and it was, and it's brought so many great things. But yeah, they were doing the best that they could, and they didn't realise the impact that this had had on me. So I learned to forgive myself because I felt guilty about all the things I'd done, all the bad behaviour and stuff. So I learned to forgive me and just realised, there was a reason for it. I wasn't just a bad person or a bad child, which was my belief system. And I learned to love myself, which, is an ongoing journey because, there's different levels. And, I wasn't loving myself because I'd learned that I wasn't lovable. And, it feels very vulnerable to say that out loud publicly here, but I am pushing my comfort zone to do that. And that's my check-in. We're at 9 minutes. I keep meaning to keep these short, but there's so much to tell you. And there's loads of things that I've learned through from my childhood experiences, the impact that they've had on us. And that's what we're going to be talking a lot about at the conference I'm doing in April. It's all about conditioning. The theme is conditioning this year. And it's how these little, what seem like insignificant moments and experiences and comments, the impact that has, and how you can take that into adulthood. And you just, until you stop and start doing like a personal development journey like this, a self-discovery practice, you don't realise these how significant these moments are. And, you know, until you realise and become aware of them, you can't then change the pattern. Awareness is the absolute key, which is why the self-discovery challenge is just such an eye-opener, and you know, is so vitally important for us. And if each and every one of us would to have some kind of practice like this would massively change our immediate world, but it changes the world in the process, because we show up differently and more positively, and we get better results because we're thinking better and we're making better choices. So that's what Change Your World is all about. That's what this challenge is all about. And I welcome you and invite you to share your own reflections. I know this might be a challenging question equally for some of you. And I just, I encourage you to just go for it and be, well, I don't want to say be brave, because that makes it sound like a big thing. But I've put this out there. I'm not going to die. And you know what, I've been honest and true and authentic to myself, and I've learnt loads from the experience. So nothing is a mistake if you've learned from it. So love to you all. Have a fab Sunday, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.